I never thought I could do it in real life until Image Comics, which was an offshoot of Marvel and DC. They started their own company, and they were really good. But then they started making all these other comics and just hiring artists that I didn't think was very good. And I remember looking at one and thinking, I could do this. And so I would draw superhero comics, but it wasn't until I started discovering like Chester Brown and Adrian Tomini that I felt that you didn't have to draw superhero comics. You could draw, like comics in a whole different style. And that's when I was really interested in making it. So I did it around the year 2000 when I graduated college. I started making comics just for fun. And then a friend of mine said that there's a lot of people that do this. And so that's when I went to Art Night and met Gene and Lark and Jason Shiga and Derek Kirkham. And I think when I saw their stuff, it really, really made me want to do comics because I was like, these guys are terrible, and if these guys can do comics, then I definitely will be a star someday, right? So that's why I started drawing comics. I still draw comics now.
I don't even know why we're friends, dude. Well, I started reading comics when I was in 5th grade, and I started drawing comics pretty soon after that. So a friend of mine and I would make these superhero comics, and we'd get his mom to photocopy them at work, so we wouldn't have to pay for photocopies, and then we would sell them for 50 cents a piece at school. Eventually I gave up on comics in junior high because somebody told me that I would never get a girlfriend if I kept making comics. But
that's because of the way you look, not the comics.
Thanks for clarifying. But then eventually, after I graduated college, I realized, I've loved comics all my life, and I'm gonna die an unfulfilled man if I don't produce at least one comic book. So I've been doing comics ever since I graduated college.
And do you feel fulfilled now?
I do. I actually do.
You produced 4, so fulfilled 4 times over?
4 times over, that's right. The latest one, though, has some iffy art. I'm not quite sure about that one. That one was probably the least fulfilling comic book I've seen.
I don't know if you read the recent review of Level Up on the Comics Journal about how much the best.
When you pay a reviewer, the review is no longer valid.
I'm just saying, the Comics Journal message board has a great the website has a great review of Level Up. Just saying.
Of course it does. All right. Question number 2?
Go.
Question number 2 is, did you read comics when you were a kid? And you kind of answered that, but answer it again. And who were some of your influences?
I absolutely read comics when I was a kid. So growing up in America in the 80s, most of the comics that you could get a hold of were all superhero comics. And I was definitely a Marvel zombie. The very first comic
that's what they call it, Marvel zombie.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the very first comic that I saw and that I deeply wanted was a Marvel 2-in-1 with Thing and Brawl the Space Knight.
Oh, Brawl.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was amazing.
I remember being in 4th grade, and our family was still kind of poor, and I had $1.50 to spend at 7-Eleven, and I would normally buy these wooden planes that you would put together. They were like $1.50, and you could fly them. But to this day, I saw a comic, it had Spider-Man and Moon Knight on it, and it was only 75 cents. I said, we're poor, but I can afford 75 cents a month. So I said, I'll buy this and start collecting this every month. And that just blew up into this lifelong kind of obsession of buying comics. And I definitely was into Marvel, but I was also into Transformers and Robotech, just like every other kid.
Yeah.
And I read comics, and I think we should have stopped, but we still read comics.
Yeah, most people who were reading comics back then stopped.
Yeah,
I think
we still read comics. I don't know what it is about certain people who just really love that world and then just stay. And some people don't like it anymore and go off to other things, like more healthy things like sports and business. And we're like
and business, yes, and money.
Yeah, and we're just and girlfriends.
Yeah.
All right. Question 3 is, what are you currently working on?
I'm working on something not with Tim. So it's going way better. I'm doing 2 projects. I'm doing a superhero project with this artist named Sunny Liu. I don't know when that's going to come out. And then I'm also doing a project about the Boxer Rebellion, which I'm both writing and drawing, and Lark Thien is coloring.
You mean this Lark over here?
Yes, that Lark right there.
Yay!
And I'm not totally sure when that's going to come out either.
Okay.
I just turned in Sumo, which is I done this little mini comic.
when you're on camera, you can't do that.
I did this little mini comic a while back.
Oh, cool.
I hand bound it and hand silk screened it, and first I collected enough to want to publish it.
Cool.
So they're publishing it, and I just finished the colored version of it. So hopefully that's going to come out at the same time Boxer Rebellion comes out,
Cool.
and we'll have a fight. And
Right.
I pretty much think Sumo's going to steal your thunder a little bit. And then after that, I haven't really decided what to do yet, but I think I'm going to do a little autobiographical story about my life, because I've noticed that ever since Level Up came out, everyone wants to know about me more.
Oh, is that what it is?
So I was like, maybe I should write,
I have a project for you. You know what you should do after you're done with sumo?
This video is
You should
only like 10
study
minutes.
spelling. That's what you should do. You ever think about that?
I don't know. English is my second language. I don't know if you there's immigrant kids out there,
That as an excuse.
but just because people like this make fun of you, still persist, still read, still write. These guys can't keep us down. I know learning English as a second language is hard.
That as an excuse. Most people who come to America figure out how to spell the pretty quick.
It's hard.
It's
I'm
hard.
an immigrant and I'm dyslexic.
Yeah.
It's hard.
All right. Ready for the next one?
What are we at now?
This is 4.
Oh,
You're
okay.
almost done. Remember how I promised this was going to be short?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She made it long.
I was the one that made it long.
We're on question 4, which is, what graphic novels or comic titles that have you read in the past year that you would recommend for kids or for teens?
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah.
I really like Hearville by Barry Deutsch. I think that's how you
Barry
pronounce
Deutsch.
it. Deutsch. And Usagi Yojimbo is a perennial favorite.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. I read Black Hole recently, but I don't know if I would
That's not for
recommend
kids,
that
bro.
for kids.
Not so much for
Bro.
kids.
It was an amazing
Good,
work though.
but not so much for
Maybe
kids.
for like 12th grade. I could go 12th grade.
Lots of movies. The
Like
movies,
11th or
12th grade
12th
movies? No.
They read like Kitchen
Absolutely
Lion
not.
stuff.
Absolutely
11th
not.
grade, 12th grade, yeah.
Well, what would you recommend then?
Well, one of the only real big comics I've been reading lately is this one called Oshinmo. I'm not really even sure.
Oh,
how that's pronounced.
Oishinbo. Yeah.
And it's basically a Japanese comic about food, which I really love. I think I really like the idea that in Japan and other countries they have comics about everything. I hear there's even a comic about bento boxes at train stations or something
Yeah.
like that. So
You've been
I
talking
love
to
that
Chavez,
idea.
huh?
Yeah. I love the idea that you can have a comic about food or a comic about drawing or a comic about ping pong or whatever, instead of just constantly having comics about either about this person who this person's life who went through war or whatever. So I like that. So Oshimo is what I would recommend.
Very good. And the last question, this is the librarian-y one, is if you were stranded on a desert island, and I know, go ahead and assume you're going to be rescued, so it doesn't have to be a self-help book or anything.
Okay.
But what one book would you bring with you? And it doesn't have to be a comic, it can be any book at all.
Well, one book that I bring with me? I'd bring a journal of my wife's letters to me when we were dating.
Ew.
Yes! I get points for that, dude. Make sure she sees this.
I will do that.
That was the single grossest thing
That was
I've
awesome.
ever heard.
That was an awesome answer. I'm so proud of myself.
The only reason, as growing up as an immigrant kid and learning English as my second language, I never liked.
Why do you have to keep talking about that?
This is the. I never
Derek,
like.
Derek came in 5th grade and he can spell.
I never, because he had a white dad. I never liked reading very much, and all through until I believe it was I think it was either 3rd or 4th grade. They had us read Bridge to Termithia.
Yeah.
Which changed my life. I loved it so much, and I would take that just for that stuff. When I say I don't want to read, I'll look at that and I'll probably say this is a book I want to read. I recently saw the movie. It kind of ruined it for me a little bit. The movie was pretty good, but then I finally got what people say when they say this movie's not as good as the book. That's the only time, because I've never read a book that was made into a movie. So that was the only time where I was like, oh, I know what people feel like now.
Yeah.
This was not that good of a movie.
You don't read because you're an immigrant? Is that why?
What? Yeah, it's hard for me.
Because
All
Derek
right.
reads. Great.
He doesn't draw very well, though. He can read well.
Thank you guys very
Thank
much.
you.